hours until the first game kicks off. Big cash prizes available. ESPNFC.com. Get your entry in. Last but not least, at this grand board, Stuart Robson.
Can we do better than they did?
You've been waiting. I think we can.
You were involved in one of those.
I think we've got
with Shaka.
We've got the technology bit figured out. I'll say that now. We shall see. Let's start with your group picks, Stuart. Who you got coming out of the 8 groups? Talk us through it.
I've got Uruguay winning the group. Russia second, I think, because they're the home nation. I think they will just do enough. Spain, even though Lopetegui's gone and Hierro is the sort of interim coach, I think they'll still win it. Portugal just about coming second. France and Denmark. That was a hard one. Denmark or Peru, really. But I put Denmark in. Argentina to win the group. Croatia or Nigeria? Croatia just about.
That's the one that separates opinion. Group E, no shit. Well, you've got Serbia going through.
I've got Serbia. I think they're a good team, Serbia. They've got some excellent players. Milinkovic-Savic is a player that everybody should be looking out for. Germany and Mexico to get above Sweden. England and Belgium. I've actually put England as the winning group winning team on that one because I think they're dead rub of the last game and Belgium might not put out their full side. So I had England winning that group and Colombia winning the group. Senegal, I think, are the best of the African teams. Then come in second.
Tough group, that isn't it? That Group H. Not much to choose between them. It leads us to these round of 16 encounters, Stuart. So this is where it starts to get interesting.
Well, the first game's not interesting. Spain will be too good for Russia. This is as far as Russia will go.
Okay.
Spain.
Bye-bye to the hosts.
Yeah. And then you look at the next one. Lionel Messi at his very best. I think he's going to take the World Cup by storm. It's going to be too good for Denmark. So it's Argentina to play against Spain there. Then you look at the next one. Tough one.
You like Serbia.
I like Serbia, but
do you like them enough?
Not enough to beat Germany. I think Germany will just about have enough to beat Serbia. And out of those two, I'm going to go for Belgium at the bottom. Under a lot of pressure because they've got some great players, but I think they'll have too much. I'm going to go with that again.
Yeah.
There we go. Belgium
they don't want to play Germany, but they will be playing Germany. Let's have a look at the other half of the round of 16. Uruguay, Portugal.
Now, my team that I think might disappoint, Portugal. European champions, I'm not particularly happy with them. Too defensive.
Not high on Portugal.
They've got Uruguay 3 outstanding players in Godin, Suarez and Cavani, so I think they'll go through.
France-Croatia, 98 semi-final.
France,
same result.
Through. Yeah, I think Paul Pogba's going to come to the fore in this tournament. We had a slight injury to Mbappe, but I think they're still a very good side.
Brazil-Mexico would be a tasty round of 16.
It would be a tasty game, but there's only one winner. Mexico, I think, disorganized 48.
That's been their ceiling, hasn't it?
48 different formations in 48 games. Brazil, I think, are going to have a good World Cup.
48 formations.
So I've been told. And England versus Senegal. Now, I'm going to go on this occasion with Senegal because, as I said, they're the best African team in the tournament. I think they've got some outstanding players. And it might just be too much for England, so Senegal to play Brazil.
You and Shaka both?
Yes.
Both of you have Senegal knocking out England.
Yep, that's what I'm going for.
All right, so let's take it to the quarters. Spain and Argentina. That would be some way to kick off the quarterfinals.
I said at the beginning of the tournament, a couple of weeks ago, Spain would win it. Even though Lopetegui's gone, I still think they're going to get...
Under Fernando Hierro, they're going to go...
I think the players will start to come...
They could go further.
Could go further. Germany versus Belgium. Belgium might... I'm going to go for Belgium on this occasion.
Yeah, I like it.
I think Germany might just fall apart.
Yes. Well, it's happened to previous holders, hasn't it?
Yeah. Leroy Sané left out. I think it's a bad decision by the manager. Semi-finals. I'm going to go for, in this one, France to beat Uruguay.
Yeah. This is still to
get into the semi-finals, the quarter-finals.
Yeah.
And then Brazil, as much as I like Senegal, Brazil to beat
Senegal there. That would set up a France-Brazil semi. So let's have a look at these semis, shall we? Oh, yeah. I like the look of that. So we've got an all-European encounter, Spain-Belgium. You've got France and Brazil. Who's getting to the final?
Neymar coming to the fore. I think he's going to dominate the World Cup when he's on top form. And I'm still going to go. I'm going to stick with what I said. No matter the manager going, players will take them through to the final against Brazil.
So the Spanish manager of Belgium, Roberto Martinez, will come a cropper against Spain.
Yeah, but he's taken them to the semi-finals, in my view.
So a Brazil-Spain final on July the 15th in Moscow. Who's
in my predictor, I said that Spain would win it, but I've changed my mind over the last 2 days.
And the managerial change, something to do with that?
Yeah, I think a little bit of that. There might be a bit of unrest between the players by the end of the tournament. Brazil, they are going to win the World Cup.
Remember where you heard it first. This man has a track record of predictions. He was the first one to say Arsene Wenger would go, but that was eight years ago. So maybe the 2026 World Cup is what you should be predicting here. Thanks very much, Stuart. You can catch our podcast. If you missed the video version of the show, the audio version available every day on iTunes. ESPN FC. Well, mind-blowing developments. Julian Lopetegui, of course, had announced, or Real Madrid had announced his signature just 24 hours before. Gab Marcotti joining us from Moscow. Gab, I know you've been monitoring events very closely. Give us your insider's take. How did this all happen?
Well, and what I'm about to give you, of course, is the version of the Spanish Federation. But basically, Rubiales received a phone call from Lopetegui saying, "Oh, Mr. President, in about 5 minutes, Real Madrid are going to announce to the world that I am taking over at the Bernabeu next season. Don't worry, I'm going to stick around for the World Cup, and then we're going to part ways." Now, bear in mind that Rubiales certainly, I think, felt betrayed. He went to bat for Lopetegui, giving him a new long-term contract on May 22nd, and he did not take it well. He was here in Moscow. He was due to speak at the FIFA Congress, which was earlier today. Instead, he boarded a plane, flew to Krasnodar, where the Spain camp is, confronted Lopetegui, and within a few hours, just sacked him.
But Gab, was this the right move for Spain? I know you've written about it extensively on ESPNFC.com. I think you suggested it was. Why is this the right move? It seems quite shocking.
In my opinion, it really is the right move, and it's the right move because I think you have to be strong as a federation. You know, you represent the football of your country. And here is a guy, and I appreciate he might not get another chance to manage Real Madrid and whatever else, although, you know, if he believes himself and if he wins the World Cup with Spain or something like that, the chance would have come. But here is a guy who does not have enough of a respect for his contract, does not have enough of a respect for his employer, does not have enough respect for the federation that he represents, that he doesn't bother to tell them that he's had an offer from Real Madrid, or that Real Madrid have even started talks with his representatives. No, he goes to him once the deal is done, once he's accepted the job, and says, like, hey, by the way, that contract, it's meaningless. I'm out of here when the World Cup is over. And I think this is the sort of bullying. I mean, to me, this is the main reason. This is the sort of bullying that I don't think you can put up with as an FA. Then there's other reasons. People bring up the fact that he's going to be looking after Barcelona players, but he knows he's going to go coach Real Madrid and whatever else. I think all that is secondary. There's a lot of unity in the Spanish team, but I really think a message had to be sent, and I for one am glad Rubiales stood up to him.
Rubiales, Craig, claiming he had no choice. He had an obligation to do this.
Well, I think he's put a firm marker down here about how he's going to run things. There's been a scant disregard for the federation here by Lopetegui. There's absolutely no doubt about that. You can't operate in that fashion. And I'm with Gab. I absolutely think, from a federation's perspective, it's right to show that there's a way of doing things. Now, from a football perspective, clearly it's made life more difficult. Lopetegui will have organised, or where they're going to stay, organised where he wants them to train. Clearly has selected the squad, has done all the technical stuff. So clearly from a footballing perspective, it's made it more difficult. But from a federation's perspective, I think the head of the Spanish Federation here is absolutely correct. That is not how we do things. And when you treat a federation like that, this is what the end result is.
And they've treated him very well. He was the under-19 manager, he was the under-21 manager. They put him on the map. He got the Porto job off the back of working for the Spanish FA. And he's done everything wrong. I mean, he cannot try and negotiate this contract and sign this contract, while he's still the manager of Spain 2 days before that. It will have an impact on the team, no question about that, because Hierro's got to now take over and he's got to try and get those players all united. He's got to make sure he carries on doing the things that Lopetegui is doing. He can't change the system completely and change the tactics. So I don't think it's a good thing for the team, but it's a good thing for the Spanish FA.
What's more important? Is it more important that the federation looks strong and they're standing up to a guy who clearly has done the wrong thing? Or is it more important that they give the Spanish team every chance of winning the World Cup? Because getting rid of Lopetegui means that absolutely they will not win the World Cup.
They're in the worst place.
Do you think the players were consulted on this? Do you think the chairman went to the players?
I don't see how. Who cares what the? Listen, end of the day, 99% of those players will understand if Lopetegui take the Real Madrid job and stayed for the World Cup. Because every one of them would have done the same thing. Had they been with another team and Real Madrid come in, they understand that. So I don't think the players should have been consulted, and I don't think they were.
Yeah, but at the time Lopetegui signed his Spanish Federation extension, the Real Madrid job wasn't open. So is that a mitigating factor at all?
Is that an excuse for you to not just rip up your contract, but only give them 5 minutes advance notice? No, it's absolutely not. He could have still negotiated with Real Madrid, but the minute the call came in that it was a possibility, he should have told the federation. And further to Stevie's point, remember, Hierro has been there all along. He's been part of the setup. In terms of experience and charisma, he's certainly not second to Lopetegui. But I think one of the key things to remember is the binary situation here isn't Spain with a happy Lopetegui and their chances, and Spain without Lopetegui. The binary situation is Spain without Lopetegui, or Spain with Lopetegui, with the Catalan press knowing that he's going to go manage Real Madrid, with every single road bump along the way becoming a question of, oh, well, was he busy talking to Florentino about Gareth Bale's future and whatever else? Is that why he didn't do this and that? How distracted is he by this? And I think what you can't have in this World Cup is a situation like that. I think that would have been far more damaging.
This is great. I mean, seriously,
we're not talking about Russia, Saudi Arabia.
This is great. I hope this is the way the World Cup is going to go for the next 4 weeks at least, because stories, breaking news, dramas like this. We don't want a boring World Cup. We want to see some great games, but we want to see some headlines and some stories as well. This one has just come out 24 hours ago, as you mentioned. The fact that he was taking the Real Madrid job at the end of the World Cup was a story, because we were talking, how's that going to affect the team? But now this is just blown it absolutely out.
We were talking 24 hours ago about how the team that's going to win it is going to have great unity. There's going to be no problems within the camp. We talked about France a couple of World Cups ago when they had the problem with Evra and the manager. Spain were going to be one of the favourites here, and I think I think they've done the right thing.
They're still clearly going to be
a good team, but I don't think they're going to be the favourites.
These are the odds right now as we stand on the eve of the opening game. Spain third favourites equal with France, but just behind Germany and Brazil. Stuart, I know you pre-tournament fancied Spain to win it. Does this alter your projection?
It certainly does, because I think one or two of the players will start to say they've got we should be playing this way, or we should be playing that way. Can you imagine Ramos? You know, we know he's a big leader. Him starting to dictate, well, we should be doing this and we should be doing that. When you have a manager, and Lopetegui was the manager, he was dictating what was going on. Hierro, I think, is obviously got charisma, but he hasn't been in charge of the team. He's been the assistant manager. He's now got to take control of that team. And if he doesn't take control of the team, Spain are going to struggle.
A couple of things. You know, Gab's talking about, well, if Spain didn't play well, then they're going to jump on Lopetegui. If Spain don't play well, they're going to jump on Lopetegui anyway. So what does it matter? Yeah. And the fact that he's saying Hierro's been around for the team and all this makes absolutely no difference at all. Listen, 80% of Spain doing well is down to the players. The other 20% is the coach. Why do you think coaches stand at the side of the field? All they're doing is reiterating all the stuff that they've been speaking about over the qualifying campaign, over the build-up. So when you stick a completely different person...
And he's made them a better side. He's transformed them over the last couple of years, Lopetegui. Yeah. Before that, they were struggling. They were playing football without penetration. Now he's got the balance right, and that's why I had them as the favourites, because Lopetegui had done a good job.
If Spain got off to a good start, listen, this team could almost self-police itself to a certain extent. He is going to. I presume he's going to be selecting the team, unless there's a couple of other behind the scenes that are all chipping in. But if it runs smoothly for him, it could be relatively simple. If it starts going a bit wrong, he's got some big decisions to make. That's when we're going to find out. If you look at Germany in 2014, they hit some rough seas. But Jogi Löw, with the continuity they've got, he made some changes. And that got them through to the World Cup final and eventually to win it. That's going to be the big test for Herrera.
VAR, video review. What sort of part will that play in the story? Pierluigi Collina, the chairman of the FIFA Referees Committee, saying this earlier. We were told to keep they were told to keep the flag down when there is a tight offside incident. Talking about the linesmen, the assistant referees. There could be a very promising attack or a goal-scoring opportunity. They've got to keep them down, because if the assistant referee raises the flag, then everything is finished.
Yeah, I can understand that. I mean, it's going to be difficult, I think, for the assistant referees, because their natural reaction normally would be to get the flag straight up if they think. So that is going to be difficult. The best one I've heard, though, with these referees is the VAR officials who are going to be operating it. So they're going to be miles from where the game is. All have to go in the referee's kit, which I just think is bonkers. I mean, like
John Champions League.
You're going to have 4 of these guys sitting in the kit 1,000 miles from where the game is, in some room. I mean, how stupid.
Are they going to wear their boots as well?
That's what Robin said. They've got to
have a little flag with them too.
Is that?
How stupid is this statement?
That they've got to keep the flag?
If you're a linesman, right, you're looking at whether it's offside or it's not offside. You don't sit and go, well, that's close, it might be, it might not be, I'll just let it go. If you see it offside, you put your flag up, and if you're not sure, you don't put your flag up anyway. They were doing that 20 years ago, by the way.
But isn't this all to do with the fact the goal has to be scored?
Yeah, but they can always go back. Yeah, they can always go back to it, because if he doesn't put his flag, or even if he puts his flag and the referee allows it to go and the player runs 1v1 against the goal and scores, and then it's proved offside, they just cancel it out. But what you don't want to do is cancel all the goals. They're trying to make it work both ways. You can cancel goals because it's offside, but you can also allow goals to be scored when it's not offside.
So you're trying to give a little extra advantage to the attacking player.
And I've seen it happen 2 or 3 times in the FA Cup.
Hold on a second. Am I missing something here?
Probably.
Seriously. If you're the linesman and you're looking across the line and you see he's offside, you put your flag up.
We're talking about the ones that are millimetres or just offside.
If you're a linesman and it's a millimetre,
you give the forwards the benefit of the doubt.
So you wouldn't put your flag up anyway.
You give the forwards the benefit of the doubt.
5 years ago, 10 years ago. You give the forwards the benefit
of the doubt, and then if he scores, you can then go back and say it's offside.
That's not the point. My point is, what's the difference?
If he puts his flag up, the referee blows it, and he's onside, then he can't score a goal.
If a linesman is not sure, if the linesman's not sure,
cancelling out a goal.
If the linesman's not sure, whether it was yesterday, 5 years ago, 10 years ago, if the linesman's not sure, he keeps his flag down. So what's changed because of that?
I've never known
Nothing should have changed.
I've never known somebody get so upset about a flag going up.
It's complete, it's complete typical nonsense. You know, people outside the game, just sticking their nose
Well,
in,
I tell you
saying
what-
something just for the sake of...
I wouldn't say Kalina's outside the game, is he?
Well, I mean, anybody's got them
Kalina's
pressing up.
been
and
one of the
it's-
best referees in the world.
He's talking nonsense.
I think one of the things they're trying to stop is the flag going up and the defender switching off and stopping.
Right.
They're going to try and let that go, and if it's a goal scored, they then come back and then they'll re-referee it that way.
The only thing guaranteed, by the way,
Angry
some
man.
numpty is
Angry-
going to be 2 yards offside, and the linesman's going to keep his flag down.
Yeah.
You
So-
can put your bottom dollar
You're going to get
on.
angry about that?
Aye.
This is going to be new for a lot. I mean, we've seen it in the
By the way,
Bundesliga.
this VAR's going to be great.
Yeah, well, I was going to ask Stuart.
In a bad way.
Do you think it's going to be a positive overall? You've seen it
I've
in the
seen it.
Bundesliga.
Nearly every
You've seen
game
it
I
in
commentate on
MLS.
has VAR. And it all depends on the decisions that the VAR makes and the referee makes in the end. If they're not good referees, they're not going to be any better with VAR. In the main, you're going to get most decisions right. I would say 90%.
Well, you'd
of the
like to
decisions
think
right.
so.
You'd like to think so. They should do, because they're getting another look at it. But there will still be decisions, and as commentators, we look at a decision and say, I think that's a penalty, and somebody else will say it's not. And there's still that sort of
The other thing is-
understanding. Have got an excuse now not to perform. Spain, I don't think now will win the World Cup. I think they've got one or two problems with the side. And Hierro, will he do the job? He's never been the man to make the decisions. We heard Gab talk about, well, he's been a director, he's been in important positions at Real Madrid and within the Spanish FA. He has not been on the side of the pitch for Real Madrid or Spain and had to make big decisions. So that is a massive call for them to sack.
So you're
Lopetegui
saying
and
now
put him in charge.
Spain are not going to win the World Cup?
No.
Right. You did your predictor earlier with Adrian before we started the show.
Yeah.
Did you have Spain to win the World Cup?
No.
Oh, damn. I was hoping you had changed
try.
that.
Catch him out. You had Spain making the final, didn't you?
I got them to the final, but
Losing to Brazil.
Losing to Brazil rather than beating Brazil.
Yeah. But an excuse. They always say don't give players an excuse. Does this give Spanish players an excuse?
How many,
Not to
how many
win?
questions is this?
Well,
Is it just the one question, or we?
no, we got
is
a
it
couple,
multiple.
we got a couple more. I can go back to ZipRecruiter.
You're not getting this extra time, are you?
Oh,
You're not. Stevie, explain how this.
no, he's not. Right.
We just move
Fire-
swiftly on.
Get on with it. Fire
Move
it
swiftly
in.
on. All right. What's your thoughts on the knighthood of King Kenny?
That's about time, huh?
Us Rich Mount.
How,
Absolutely.
Seriously, how
Absolutely.
stupid is that? How can you knight a king?
We get a rook, get a couple of rooks. Play to.
How can you knight a king?
No,
How can
absolutely.
you knight a guy who's already a king?
So when's your
Rice,
MBE
King
coming?
Kenny.
When's your MBE coming or something like OBE you could get, couldn't you? Services to football in England?
Already got one.
That's what I said. When's the next one?
Already got one.
Yeah, so MBE, OBE next one.
What have you got?
Outside broadcasting.
How many of your teammates have got MBEs or OBEs?
Two.
I only two.
John
King
Barnes.
Kenny, who's now a sir.
Rightly so, yeah.
Yes. And Mr. Alan Hansen, who I believe is in OBE.
What about John Barnes? Did he not get anything?
Rushy didn't get anything?
Steve's getting one. If he does get one in the next couple of years, it'll be for services to beer and food. Guaranteed.
Well, talking of things,
Nice, yeah.
Services to the food and...
I deserve an SBF.
moving on swiftly, note this. Talking of things you've given great service to over the years, which of you are the better golfer? And be honest, says Sam Nicol.
Oh, he is. Well,
Yeah? By how much?
long off the tee.
Yeah.
No, we're
Accurate
about
to the
3 or
green.
4 shots between us. Normally.
3 or 4?
Yeah.
Normal.
I've coached
I'm
him.
not a good golfer.
I've coached him down a little bit because he had the most god awful set up when we first started.
You told me
Not
he
magical.
used to twitch when he was putting. He had the old jips.
No, he didn't twitch. He's had everything. He's had everything.
Called a yip.
But this is a
that's the one
guy
I
who
like.
used to hit. This is a guy who used to hit a big banana off the tee, right?
Yeah.
Aye.
He can do all sorts now. He can shape it right, shape it right to left. Oh, everything.
You know,
Goodness.
do you know how much it is for a coach?
Coach.
Yeah.
A golf
A
coach?
golf coach. Uh-huh.
Nothing. Free advice.
Couldn't get out of bunkers. Can get out of bunkers now.
I don't think you got out the bunker the other day.
Seriously, Aidan, he
He dropped into the bunker.
He can
then
hit a
couldn't get
draw.
out.
He can hit a draw off the
Today
tee.
I didn't.
He couldn't hit nothing. He used to aim 30 yards left off every tee.
Yeah.
Now he down the middle.
Yeah.
Right.
Button.
It's going to be your new job.
So you're
Coach.
I might need it.
so Stu, you're
Tried with Dan.
you're waiting to develop your golf game. I
No, I tried to develop my golf game. I had a little spell where I got down to 9.
Why
and then
don't
I
you
didn't.
play?
That's
then
pretty good.
Then I haven't played for 3 years. So
That's pretty good.
Just lazy. I know exactly. And you're probably what? But 12?
12, 13,
10, 11,
something like that.
12.
Yeah, 13, 14, 18 on a bad day, but
we all have
I like,
handicaps
I like
you
it to
got?
be variable.
I thought you were only allowed one handicap. You just reeled off about 4 there.
Right.
Right.
like the questions.
Right.
Yeah, exactly. I think we actually had a question, so I can go.
yeah.
I can go through the ZipRecruiter stuff again if you
Could
want.
have left you alone. Keep it
Like
going.
that. It's the smartest way to
World
play
Cup
it.
tomorrow. Big one.
Yeah.
Saudi Arabia.
Looking
Russia.
forward to it.
Russia's
Magic.
cruising.
We will be casting our BDIs over that opener with you on the next edition of FC, and then we'll have 3 Friday games to preview as well. Lovely. Free Friday games.
Friday games.
Free Fridays. Free Friday games. It's the smartest way to hire.
Well, it's the news that left all our jaws dropping this morning. Stuart Robson, Juliet Lopetegui has been sacked as Spain's manager just 2 days before their opening match of the World Cup. Stuart, now the timing of this is just absolutely shocking. But after what happened and the Spanish Federation saying that he accepted the Real Madrid job without even notifying them, was this something that had to happen?
When you look at it like that, probably. But it's a big decision to make. This is on the eve of the World Cup. You've got a manager in place. Yes, he's going to go to Real Madrid, but surely they could see that he would be focused for a month on this Spanish side.
Could multitask.
I don't think he even needed to multitask. Let somebody else, let his assistant deal with what's going on at Real Madrid. He had to deal with what was going on in Spain. He's done a very good qualifying campaign. He seems to have got the team working in a good order. I thought they were favourites for the World Cup. To sack him is a big decision to make. Maybe the right decision, because if the manager of your national side, and I'm sure he's got quite a long contract still left, or few years on his contract, to not tell the FA that he's signing up for Real Madrid, that's a major disappointment for them.
Now, I know we were debating this on the show yesterday and saying, of course, it is 2 very big jobs and which one was bigger or not in his eyes. But take me now to the players' perspective, because, of course, you've been out there. And some will say, will this really even affect the players? So what are they thinking? Who's going to have to step up, do you think?
Well, there'll be players that would like it. Some players won't like it. There'll be players now.
Will they be too disgruntled and too out of
I don't think
sorts?
they'll be disgruntled. There'll be what may make the players disgruntled if 1 or 2 of the players start to want to become the coach and the manager. I can imagine Sir Ramos starting to say, well, I think we should be doing it this way and I think we should be doing it that way. It's up to Hierro, who is going to take his place for this tournament. He's got to be strong. He's got to make sure he's the manager, he's the coach, he dictates what goes on in the training field, he dictates what goes on in the games, not the players. The players are very good players, but we know there's Barcelona players, there's Real Madrid players. There'll be a power struggle in that dressing room, and I think that could be their problem.
Oh, that sounds like too many chefs in the kitchen. So now I do have to ask you, because of course everyone will be asking this question. Does this affect your predictions for Spain in the World Cup?
Absolutely. I had them as favourites. No longer. I think there'd be too much disruption in the camp. I don't think Spain will win the title now.
Oh, all right. Well, that's definitely not what Spanish fans were hoping to hear, but that seems to be the case right now, as they've managed to fire their head coach manager just 2 days before their opening World Cup fixture. It's always a good day when we can talk about Arsenal with a former Arsenal player, Stuart Robson, joining me in this one. At interesting times at Arsenal, especially everyone waiting to say who Unai Emery will be signing first. Lucas Torreira at Sampdoria, where he's one of the top targets. Well, Stuart, what do we know about him and how do you see him fitting in at Arsenal if they do land this deal?
He's only 22. He's had a couple of seasons in Sampdoria's first team. He went on loan to Pescara. He's played 3 times for Uruguay. He's in the Uruguay squad for the World Cup. He's a holding midfield player, he's a dynamic player, he's an aggressive tackler, he's not a particularly big player, but he certainly does most of the right things as you want from a holding midfield player. He's got energy, he's got dynamism, he'll get in behind the fullbacks to cover those positions. So it's a decent signing, but what does it say about El Neni, Xhaka, and maybe even Ramsey?
Decent signing, so he's not really getting you that excited, which is what Arsenal fans need now, though.
No, I don't think you'd be excited by Lichtsteiner, who's past his best. Is he a replacement for Bellerin, or is he a player that's just going to come in when Bellerin is unfit? But I think the new director of football, the head of recruitment, Mittelstadt, that's what he's good at doing. He's good at finding players that aren't top of everybody's wish list and finding out their strengths, knowing they're the right sort of players for the club and bringing them in. And then it's up to Unai Emery to get the best out of them. That's how he worked at Borussia Dortmund. And that's how he's obviously going to work at Arsenal, because it doesn't look as though Arsenal are going to have a big budget this season.
No, that's what we're hearing. So do you think that's a big disadvantage then? Because people at Arsenal want those big name signings after everything that they've gone through the last couple of years with Arsene Wenger.
They've had some big signings in the past. They've had Ozil, they've had Sanchez. You know, they've spent a lot of money on Mustafi. They've spent a lot of money on the players. And
well, where's it got them, Stu?
It hasn't been good enough. So I think there's going to be a change of strategy. I think they're not going to spend big money on big players. They're going to find the right players that they think will fit what the manager wants. And that's what Unai Emery is much better than Arsene Wenger at doing, is coaching the players, giving them a game plan, making sure they've got a strategy when they go out on the pitch, making sure every player knows what his job is when they go out onto that pitch.
So turning people into stars.
That's what he's hoping to do.
That's what Arsenal are hoping to do, indeed. Stuart Robson joined me. There's a lot of hype around the World Cup, but right now we're focusing on Rumorator because, of course, the rumors are flying as we are in summer. So let's start with this one. Interesting one that would possibly break my heart, Stu. Paul Pogba to leave Manchester United.
I think Paul Pogba is an exceptional player. I've seen him a lot when he was playing for Juventus. I've seen him a lot for the French national team. I've seen him a lot for Manchester United. And I still think he can be a world-class player. And I think Manchester United is still the right club for him. Mourinho's got to get the best out of him. So I'm going to say that's a miss. Pogba should stay at Manchester United.
All righty, we'll move that one over here. Kovacic now at Real Madrid. Would Juventus be a nice home for him?
I'm not sure about Kovacic. I've seen him a lot when he was playing in Croatia. When he was into Milan. I don't think he's good. I'm not quite sure where he plays. I'm not sure whether he's an attacking midfield player. I'm not sure whether he's a holding midfield player. I'm not convinced about him. So I would say that is a miss as well.
Oh, that's a misses for you so far. Koulibaly to Manchester United. Would he fit well at Old Trafford under Jose Mourinho?
He hasn't done it at Manchester United. He seems to have fallen out of favour with Mourinho. Koulibaly has been brilliant for Napoli over the last 2 years. So I think he would certainly suit their style of play. I think he's the right sort of defender for them. Jones and Smalling haven't been quite good enough, but Bailly has been out of favour, so this is a hit for me.
All right, we've got to hit Rafinha now to Spurs.
I'm not quite sure where he'd play, to be honest, at Spurs. Spurs have got a very settled back line. We know that Toby Alderweireld is going, but he's not a right back. They've got Trippier who plays out there. They've got the player they bought from PSG as well. So I'm going to go a miss with Rafinha.
And finally, Jurgen Klopp, of course, on the hunt for some new players to boost his Liverpool team that has been quite impressive over the last season. Shaqiri to Liverpool, would that be one of those players?
I can't see him getting into the team. I can see him being a squad player who can come on, but he didn't do particularly well at Bayern Munich when he was a squad player. But is he better than Lallana? On his day, he gives you something different to Lallana. Is he going to play in that hole in behind a main striker? I think he could. If Salah was injured, if Mane was injured, he could go into a wide area and do a good job. So I'd say that's a hit as a squad player, Shaqiri to Liverpool. All
right, thanks so much to Stuart Robson for these hits and misses. Continue tracking all of the rumors as they float around and as we try to crack them here at ESPN FC. The World Cup is upon us. That means our Predictor game just got taken to another level. Stuart Robson is here with me as we tackle some very juicy fixtures. The opening fixtures of the tournament. Let's start off with Russia, Saudi Arabia.
I don't think Russia are a particularly good team. They're the lowest ranked team in the World Cup.
Disclaimer.
But they are at home. And most teams, when they play at home, get through the group stages. And I think they have just enough to beat Saudi Arabia. So for me, that's going to be Russia.
Opening match of the World Cup at home. A ton of eyes will be on them. I think the stage is set for Russia to definitely get a win. Here's where things get juicy now.
Yes.
Egypt, Uruguay.
Egypt have got some good players. They've got a good defence. They've got Hector Cúper, who's the manager, who's very experienced. They were runners-up in the African Cup of Nations. But I still think Uruguay with Godin at the back and Suarez and Cavani. I'm going to go with Uruguay to win this game.
Uruguay, the obvious pick for this one. But you see, I like Egypt, and it's not just because of Mo Salah. I think they're a stubborn team. Will they be stubborn enough to stop Uruguay? I don't think all the way, so I'm going to sit on the fence and go for a draw in this one.
It's unlike you to sit on the fence.
Hey there. All right, Morocco against Iran.
Two excellent managers. Carlos Queiroz, manager of Iran. Hervé Renard, manager of Morocco, has had great success in African Cup of Nations tournaments. Both got good sides, but I think this one will be a draw. And I don't think it'll do much for either side. So I'm just going to leave it, and it's going to be a draw of that game.
Well, Morocco definitely know how to lock up shop, and they are very stubborn. I was just talking about Egypt being stubborn, but I think I like Morocco in this one.
Okay.
And I'm going to go with them. Finally, a very, very, very juicy one. A lot of eyes on Spain after all the drama that's been going on with them sacking Lopetegui. Portugal, always still there in the mix. Who are you going for?
I went for Spain to win the tournament before Lopetegui got the sack or decided to go to Real Madrid. And I'm still going to go with them in this game. I'm not sure about Portugal. They won the European Championship playing very defensive football, relying on Ronaldo in the air with crosses coming into the box. So I still think Spain have the players. Vieira's got to do a very good job, but they will win this game. Not comfortably, but they'll win it.
You know what, Stuart? It's been a while since I've agreed with you. Well, since the Russia fixture.
No, only 2
and you know
games.
what? I'm going to go with Spain with you on this one. At least for this fixture, we'll see exactly how that sacking of Lopetegui does affect them for the rest of the tournament. Well, there you have it. Those are our picks for some of the opening fixtures of the FIFA World Cup. We'll definitely be here throughout the entire tournament, so make sure to keep it here at ESPN FC.
Gab Marcotti, Sam Borden, Sebastian Salazar, clearly listed by height here. In Moscow, where we've just found out the U.S., Mexico, and Canada will host the 2026 World Cup. In some ways, guys, this isn't a surprise at all. And yet there's always that saying, FIFA is gonna FIFA. And so you felt like there was a chance it might end up being Morocco, and yet the victory was surprisingly easy for the U.S., Mexico, and Canada.
Yeah, I mean, I think that as recently as a couple of months ago, there was the thought that Morocco might even be sort of ahead in the the straw polling. But over the last 6-8 weeks or so, the United bid put on a really full court press, focusing on the swing zones in Asia, in Europe. And I mean, look at the balloting. I mean, they did incredibly well in Asia. They did very well in Europe. They even took 11 votes out of Africa, and I think that's what ultimately gave them that really substantial final margin.
Gab, how do you explain the large final margin of victory?
I generally agree with Sam. I mean, what I throw in too is that I think I'm not giving away any secrets here, that certainly FIFA and Gianni Infantino wanted to see the North American bid succeed because it's a lot more lucrative and because he got elected on a platform of giving a lot of money back to federations, and obviously that became a lot more viable. I also wouldn't necessarily lose sight of one important thing, which is that, I mean, it's pretty open and shut which bid was better from really all vantage points, geopolitical, financial, whatever else. And I think a lot of nations realize that, and I think earlier on, and this is what often happens, they said, yeah, well, we might be voting for Morocco. What will you give us to vote for the U.S.? And I think people kind of, U.S., Mexico, and Canada should say, and I think, people kind of called that bluff. Reality bit at some point, and they said, guys, what are we doing? And I think ultimately that came to pass.
Yeah, I agree. I think it's interesting when you look at the voting. We're sort of conditioned because of what happened in the past to say, like, oh, well, why did this country vote? What was the reason behind this country? What was sort of the underhanded reason? Why would they have gone this way? And in reality, when it came down to it, FIFA put out a very detailed technical report on each of the bids, and there was no doubt about which bid was superior. Stadiums, infrastructure, hotels, the ability to put on a massive event like this. In the end, it's very possible that a large number of the voters just looked at that and said, you know what, I'm here to vote ostensibly for the best bid, and it's pretty clear which one is the best bid.
Gab, you mentioned the geopolitics. I feel like that was the only thing that could have potentially sunk this United bid, specifically the Trump administration rhetoric, some of the policies that have been put in place. Sam, how were they able to navigate around that?
I think in the end it was actually kind of interesting. There was this thinking that the Trump administration was going to hurt the United bid. Carlos Cordero and the bid organizer said that ultimately the guarantees that the Trump administration made to FIFA about visas, about free movement between the countries. That answered a lot of the questions that FIFA had about, the ability for 3 countries to seamlessly put on an event like this. And so when they had those questions answered in a positive way, that made their technical report score sky high. And I think ultimately the biggest concern for the voters was, are we going to be able to come to this country or these countries and be part of this event? And that question was answered in the positive.
And I also think, just on picking on the back of that, but if you look at geopolitics, U.S., Canada, and Mexico, you're talking about 3 of the world's top 15 economies right there. Voters elsewhere, however they might feel about this president, they can look at a calendar and see that he's not going to be there in 2026, come what may. You put these things together, you consider the fact also that I wonder if, to some degree, especially some of the comments that were made on the back of his tweet, whether that wasn't, some people maybe don't like this president very much, using it as an opportunity to criticize him some more. I think most people simply didn't care about that. Where geopolitics came into it is this more viable? Is it better for us to have a good relationship with these 3 huge economies, these 3 big political powers, versus Morocco, which is a regional power perhaps, but clearly not on the same scale?
Well, how about this from a strictly geopolitical perspective? You want to say, did it matter? Venezuela, which is on the no travel, the travel ban list, voted for the United Bid. North Korea, where the Trump administration just had this historic summit in Singapore just days ago, voted for Morocco. And Russia, which I think has certainly had its share of issues with the United States, originally said it was going to vote for Morocco, and in the end turned around and voted for the United Bid.
But weirdly, Belarus, which is in lockstep with Russia on everything, voted for Morocco.
Right.
So you figure it out.
FIFA gonna FIFA. Look, you mentioned that they were, the United Bid, the favorite here, the pretty clear favorite for almost every reason, but you can still understand why there may have been some doubt. They've been here before. They've been the clear favorite in 2010 going up against Qatar. However, the election this time around was fundamentally different. Gab, is this proof that at least in some way FIFA's reforms have had an effect?
Yeah, I think FIFA's reforms have had an effect in more ways than just this one. Obviously, there's a trade-off, right? Because in 2010, you had 24 people voting. Ostensibly, they weren't tied to any country. They simply were nominated by the confederations. Now we now know 75% of them have either been indicted or been banned. But the notion was that these guys can do what's best for football long term without looking at what's best for my federation or my country. We've seen that didn't work out. So that was obviously one big change. And another huge change, of course, is the fact that it's an open vote. We know what everybody voted for. There's no secret ballot. And again, that can work 2 ways. There's a reason why when you vote for president, you don't,
publicize it.
Yeah. It's to give people that freedom. But equally, when you have a closed ballot, there's more potential for people doing underhand things.
In some way, I feel kind of bad for the people of Morocco. This is the 5th time they've had a shot at this thing, and I'm unable to come away with it.
The one thing I would say about that is I think in some ways the success of this United Bid might actually help Morocco reach its dream of hosting a World Cup someday. I think, one of the legacies of this United Bid will be that multiple nations hosting is now, there's a precedent. It's allowed, it's okay. FIFA's endorsed it. And I think you could very well see a North African regional bid with Morocco right in the heart of it come forward for 2030 or 2034 and have a very good chance of winning.
Yeah, now with 48 teams soon to be in the World Cup, you see the need for multiple countries to get involved.
The bottom line is that the tournament is growing to the point. It was already a big undertaking for a small country, which we have certainly seen, in plenty of previous instances. 48 teams now. 80 games. Now to have multiple countries involved, that makes the burden a lot less for a smaller country on its own.
Well, there you have it. In some ways, the result we expected, but in others, maybe not the result we expected. For Gab, Sam, I'm Seb. Back to you.